Check, mic check, 1, 2,
Yep.
1, 2, good. Oh, it's a beautiful community. Obviously, lots to see, but great support for the team. Spent a lot of time real close to the rink here, but also take the opportunity to get downtown Ønsker and check some of the local restaurants and shops. So it's been really nice. Oh, it was. From what I was told, 14 months old, I put on the skates for the first time. And I just grew up in a community that was passionate about hockey. I had a couple older brothers that played the game. I never really thought it would be a life in pro hockey. And it just kind of advanced that way through success in junior and college hockey, and then into the pro game for 10 years as a player, and then straight into coaching. So it's definitely always been a passion, but honestly, I thought architect, chiropractor, physiotherapist, all those things were in mind as I was going through high school and even college years, and it wasn't until after college that I ended up entering, and then I was spending 20 years in professional hockey. There's a lot of subtle differences. Right now it's the language barrier for sure, and although everyone has been so kind and can speak English when you go to the grocery store or you're trying to pay your parking in the garage or getting gas, it's just a little bit different. Ultimately though, I think probably the biggest difference is just the walking down the streets and people not being as engaged in conversation as I'm used to, or as you run into people are a little more subdued here, a little quieter maybe than we're used to in Canada or the US, but ultimately anytime you get a chance to meet someone, then you realize it's the same. People are people, and there's tons of great people here that's made the welcome very, very nice. Always have in our fridge cheese. Now that I live in Norway, that wouldn't necessarily have been in my fridge all the time back home. Tons of fresh fruit and vegetables though. Love to eat fresh fruit. That's funny. Absolutely not single. Family here with me, and all of us really enjoying our time here in Ønsker. A couple girls in school here and son back home that's going to be able to visit for the major holidays, the US Thanksgiving and Christmas time and spring break. So can't wait to get him over here as well. You know what, it entails so much, from individual communication to developing players, to putting in a system in place, but then having to constantly evaluate where players are individually and as a team, and so you're looking so much from both the team perspective and then both the individual player perspective, that you constantly have to evolve with what's going on in the current circumstance, whether you're winning games, losing games, how guys' confidence is, so lots to go into that. Man, if I had no restrictions, I would probably just travel a whole lot and want to continue to see the country and the world. But if it involves employment, in addition to hockey, I do a lot in leadership development and corporate leadership development and working with leaders and the way they lead and form their teams. So that's a real passion of mine, whether it's on the ice or off the ice. Wow, it's interesting. So go back about 11 years when I started my coaching career. You start watching the game a whole lot differently than you do as a player. And I grew up with the Toronto Maple Leafs, and they were my favorite team. But then you start studying the game, and we encourage our young players to do that as well, to help them develop. And so as you start studying as a coach, I tended to drift towards the teams that I liked the way they played. And then I had some good fortune to be with some great NHL organizations in support roles and development roles. So most recently being with the Chicago Blackhawks and learning a lot about their systems and being part of their last Stanley Cup championship was a great honor. So but if I just as a cheering section, I'm cheering for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Mario Lemieux was my favorite player as a kid. As we switched to goaltending, tons of respect for so many of the great goaltenders out there, and tons of European influence in our goaltending, but but currently Braden Holtby is my guy. You know, I think from a player's perspective, there's not that big of a difference. The game flows a little bit faster, so therefore you don't have that much more time and space compared to the game in North America. Just looking at the size of the rink, you think the game you would have more time to make plays, but it just gives guys more room to pick up speed. So some of those things have to be tweaked a little bit from an individual, from the players that are making the transition, and then certainly from some of the tactics as we learn and grow. But overall, the game is similar. Love the speed of this game. And it really forces you to make sure you have a roster full of guys that can move their feet and make plays with the puck. So that's a big focus in the game plan, is to make plays. Of all time, it's pretty close for me, and I guess we'll go into 3 different categories. Growing up, Mario Lemieux was, to me, the ultimate player and my favorite to watch. And from my home team, the Toronto Maple Leafs, Doug Gilmour, I loved his grit and his tenacity, and kind of an undersized player that just competed so hard and had great success. And coming to current day, I've loved watching TJ Oshie and been fortunate to spend a little bit of time on the ice with him, and just watching the way he competes both in practice and games, and the success he's had on the international stage with Team USA, but also getting his first Stanley Cup with the Washington Capitals. Boy, that's a tough one. From childbirth to winning championships on the ice, there's a lot of great moments. So hopefully still more of those best are still to come. Oh, that's tough. Hockey's hockey, and athletes are athletes. You know, I think in general, the Canadians and US players have just had, I think, a longer background in the game, and sometimes there's some sixth sense that you're looking for in a player that some of the North Americans tend to have, where a lot of the European and Norwegian players have a lot of just speed. And so there's some training differences as children and growing up through the system, so you see a ton of speed in the game here, and that's probably the biggest difference. And some of the North American players that were able to make some plays over there have to adapt to the speed of this game, and conversely you're looking to always stretch the hockey sense and the ability to make plays of all of your players. So I think the players can each learn from each other, all of our different backgrounds, whether you're from North America or right here in Norway or somewhere else in Europe or Scandinavia, that we all bring our different training backgrounds, and players have been mixing on the ice for a lot of years with North Americans playing over here and vice versa on the other side of the pond. So I love the opportunity for our players to learn from each other as well. Yeah, that's such a great question, and I've heard it from a few people, and I've been lucky enough to meet a few of the young girls that are playing hockey here, and I see that they're mixed into mainly boy teams. So early getting to know the lay of the land here, but that's definitely something we would all want to see grow. It's such a great sport, and it's growing for females around the world, so I hope that there's a way that we're able to grow into that as well, and support the development and growth of girls hockey here in Ønsker and throughout Norway. Oh, that's such a big question, and so difficult in this sport and in professional sports. So, you know, my goal is just to continue to grow as a coach, and if it's right here in Ønsker 10 years from now, that'd be great. If it ends up being somewhere else, or even if it's in another leadership position, that's my passion, and you just never know where life takes you.